Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Luke from Astro Awakening, and this is a very short little impromptu video, and I am going to restrict my editing process here. So if I fuck up along the way and I need to edit this out or make changes or whatever, then bear with me because this video I need to get up really quickly because of what's happening in the next few days here in Australia. And how this came about is I've been doing some deep research on the upcoming solar eclipse in February in Aquarius, as well as a Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and in particular in relation to Donald Trump, the USA, global politics, and what the fuck is coming. Massive, massive black swan event that's going to trigger the collapse cycle, triggered by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, 0 degrees Aries. So that video is a little bit more thought out, and there's a little bit more editing that I need to do to it. So that hopefully will be up and loaded here in the next 24 to 48 hours. Hopefully. This video, I want to focus on Australia, and in particular, Australia Day, which is 26th of January. So for those not in Australia, we celebrate Australia Day. Some have recoined this name Invasion Day. Now, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on. Us as a nation, as an identity, the 26th of January is a bit like the 4th of July. So there's been a lot of conjecture, there's been a lot of division, there's been a lot of rhetoric on both sides. And, this video is not to necessarily side with a particular alignment of that at all, whether you're patriotic for Australian values or not. I'm not going to get interject my personal perspective in these videos because it's not helpful. What I want to do is be very objective in relation to the astrology. And my last few prediction videos that have been varied, sports, horse racing, and the like, I've tried to move my position to a very objective perspective rather than my personal subjective opinion, which if you've been following along or you've followed me on social media, you probably already know. But if you're new to my YouTube channel, you might be a little bit triggered, and that's okay. Now, while you're here, excuse me, if this video is helpful, then don't forget to hit the like button and even the hype button. And if you can't be fucked, that's okay too. So, what I wanted to draw your attention to in particular was what is happening here on Australia Day for us astrologically. What I've got here is the Australian Federation birth chart, which is 1st of January 1901, 1:35 p.m. in Sydney, 29 degrees of Aries rising, which makes Mars the chart ruler. We also have 2 degrees of Aquarius on the midheaven, and our Sun conjunct Saturn in Capricorn. If you go back through my archives, you'll see me dissect the Australia birth chart in many, many videos, and I'm not going to go deeply into it in this one. What I am going to do is focus on the particular alignments that are really active for this particular day for us. And in particular, I think I've said particular too many fucking times. I'm trying to struggle to find another word that I could use. But Pluto is moved into 3 degrees of Aquarius, our midheaven. Now, the midheaven of a country relates to the sitting people in power. So, whatever the political regime that's currently in power is represented by the midheaven. This is also the country's reputation. It's our status on the world stage. The world looks at us through the lens of, as a country, as a nation, through the lens of our midheaven at 2 degrees of Aquarius. Individually, they look at the people of this land through the lens of Aries at 29 degrees. So, because we're 29 degrees Aries rising, then Mars in Virgo in the 5th house, what are we? Well, we're practical, we're down to earth, we're grounded, but we're also the trickster, the Virgo quality, and we're also love a good time, don't we, Australia? Because the ruler of the ascendant, which in other words, how the life path of the identity of Australia unfolds from this particular moment, is through the lens of the 5th house. Fun, joy, romance, pleasure, risk-taking, gambling. Huh? She'll be right, mate. That's the she'll be right fucking attitude. So, on Australia Day, Pluto has had this long transit to our midheaven. And you could say that from the outside looking in, it's a little bit like the UK, it's a little bit like Canada, it's a little bit like New Zealand. What this once beautiful nation was, built on a strong Australian values, which was very open and welcoming, and we were easygoing. There is a massive shift of that identity on the world stage, and it's partly because of what fucking political parties have done to this beautiful nation on both sides. So it's not a Labour thing or a Liberal thing, it's the political system in general and how it has fucked us and our identity and how we are perceived by other nations around the world. Pluto moving across this point of our chart is a significant transformation. And what is happening for us here in Australia and around the world is it's coming to light all of the shadowy aspects and the corruption and the fact that our current leadership has sold us out. They are not in necessarily creating legislation in betterment for Australia. They have an agenda, a hidden agenda, which is the hidden aspect of this is the Pluto transit. Now, Pluto takes a long time to transit. So we're going to have Pluto across the midheaven here, a little bit of 2025, a lot of 2026, and a little bit of 2027. What's happening on Australia Day is this little guy here, well, actually a very explosive planet, which is Mars moving into a conjunction with that particular Pluto. Now, if there is the potential for change, upheaval, or crisis, right, represented by the Pluto, then the Mars is the ignition to that. It's like you throw a match on it and boom, it blows up. So this is happening coincidentally to our midheaven on fucking the 26th of January, which is only a couple of days away. This is on Australia Day, the day we celebrate whatever fucking identity we're trying to cling to here. And it's colonialization and it's invasion day and it's stolen land, it's all these things. It doesn't fucking matter. What's happening is we're having this fucking radical transformation of identity, especially reputation and status, on the world stage. And here comes Mars to throw the match. But there's more. We have steak knives. Here is the moon, right, in the morning, right, around 9, 10 in the morning, moving into the first house, the people, right, very personal part placement, and it is moving around the 2 degrees of Taurus. So from early hours in the morning, it's going to be in Aries, it's going to make the transition into Taurus, and then when it gets to 2 degrees Taurus, it is directly square to these two up here, right? So you could look at the moon along with Mars as a significant trigger point. Now, if we go a little bit further, we've got some big astrological alignments that are underway. Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 11th house, this is legislation. The legislative branch of the Australian government is represented by, or any country, the 11th house. And what have we had recently? We have had an attack on free speech because that conjunction of these two planets has triggered the Mercury Neptune opposition. So, what's happening is they're giving you a story in relation to hate speech and these new laws that have come in conveniently after a particular event that happened just before 2026, if you know what I mean. And what's happened is they've created new legislation that restricts Saturn your ability to have free speech. And this is under the guise, Neptune, right, the illusion, deception of hate speech. Oh my God. Well, we can't have hate speech, right? So this Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 11th house squaring to the Mercury Neptune opposition, there's a lot of shadiness here. There's a hidden agenda. Whenever there's a Neptune influence, you can bet your bottom dollar there's deception at play. And this is in direct relation to the Mercury of the country, our ability to communicate, our ability to have free speech, opinion, and ideas, and to express them openly and freely. But what's going on at the moment, based on past events, used as a cover and a deceptive cover to usher in, right? Perhaps why? Because on a deeper level, what's happening for this nation is we're starting to realize that it's got nothing to do with race or religion or even immigration. It's actually got to do with the political system and the corruption, okay? The corruption at a very deep systemic level. And on the surface, oh, this is about, unity and no more division and racial equality and all these different types of things. But under the surface, covered and veiled in this deception, there's a hidden agenda at play. So this is all going on for us as a nation. And then you put Uranus in the first house of the people, and Uranus deals with sudden, shocking, and unexpected events. upheaval, change, freedom, liberation. And around the particular day here on Australia Day, you have this Uranus stationing to go direct. So when a planet is moving to its station degree, it's actually at its station degree at 27 degrees. It's basically stationary. So it amplifies its expression. Now, it is in this quincunx position, right? Because there's this major unsettling adjustment to the people of Australia's ability to communicate freely and effectively with what? Well, the system has convinced us that it's either the division against another race, religion, a particular ideology, or it's maybe the white Australia against the indigenous, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point being here is that these energies have been amplified, they've been stoked, there's a lot of potential. So, what I wanted to draw your attention to in this very short little YouTube video, very impromptu, was the fact that Mars coming into a trigger to not only Pluto, and what it represents. So you can have this explosive dynamite sort of crisis point, but also Mars coming across the midheaven of Australia, which again, it triggers one of the angles of the birth chart, and usually it's going to signify some significant event. So the reason I wanted to get this video out was to say that be mindful of the agent provocateur. Be mindful of the psychological operation. Be mindful of the false flag, especially around Australia Day. So, if, hopefully in the unlikely event, but if in the event that there is some very shocking, violent, aggressive attack, right, or accident, or the combination of, I want you to be very mindful of how you choose to respond. Now, if you're in outrage and if you're pouring out anger and frustration and grief and all the different things, go back to go back to Sydney just before New Year's, okay? That energy that you pour out, that is the energy that's used for the manifestation of what comes next, for their agenda, for whatever they want to do, for whatever reason. All of the outrage, all of the grief, all of the division, all of the anger that happened at Bondi gave them what? It gave them the political consent, albeit not from the people, but from the political puppets. It gave them the consent that you have this two-party bipartisan sort of support for these draconian totalitarian rules and restrictions that come in. So, what I want you to be careful of as we go into this particular Australia Day is yes, honor Australia or your fucking part to play in this beautiful nation in whatever way you can, and also have respect for the traditional indigenous custodians of this land. Find a way to all get along here. Find a way to be able to be one with each other. Because if we don't, this division amongst ourselves is used by this corrupt political power to further not only incite that division and polarize it and amplify it, but also to create these ridiculous rules where all of a sudden you're going to be locked up for having an opinion. So just be careful out there. I myself will be working because I'm a busy man, but I'll find my own way to honor this beautiful land in which I call home. And I encourage you to do the same. Peace out.